Welcome to 7D System. This is DMG, and in this video we're going to talk about an introduction to combat in 7D System. So if you like these videos, click the like button. And you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/7D System to help bring about this miracle. Combat in any role-playing game is about attempting to simulate combat in an interesting and fun way. Some do it oversimplified, some go to extreme lengths to simulate every single aspect of it. So you get a bit bogged down. Sometimes it's just it's too slight. It doesn't, you don't really get a feeling or a sense of the combat and the struggle that occurs in the combat. And this is where 7D System is going to be set a little bit apart from what you may have seen before in other role-playing games. So there are two key components to combat in 7D System. One is no one wants to get hit, and two, you want to gain an upper hand on the opposition. So whether you're the player attacking the monster or the monster is attacking the player, both apply. So you either don't want to be hit or you want to get an upper hand over the opponent. These are basically two simple concepts that run through all kinds of combat, whether it's range combat, close encounter, doesn't matter. You're trying to get an advantage over the opponent and you're trying not to get hit. So the way to represent this is that you are trying to gain advantage over your opponent. And this was where the combat score comes into it. So you start out with a combat score of 0. If you're able and you have a weapon and you're able to fight, or you're able to use your fists, you get 1 advantage over your opponent. Okay? Then if the opponent is lying on the ground, you get a little bit more advantage. If they're bound and gagged, you have even more of an advantage. If you're behind them, you have an advantage. If they're underwater, you have a little bit of an advantage. If you have a look at the 7D System reference guide in the download section of the website, 7dsystem.com, you will see all the combat advantages that exist at the moment. So the idea is, as the character, you're attempting to put your character into a situation where you get the highest combat score against the opponent. So at this point, we haven't even discussed how good you are with your weapon. So you can pick up any weapon and use any weapon whatsoever, but you start out with only 1 dice that you can roll. And as you become more proficient, at each time you hit successfully with a weapon, you gain experience in using this weapon based on the combat score. So the combat score is really the difficulty level, but the combat score is in reverse. So you'll see on the reference guide that a combat score of 1 means d20s. So you're rolling d20s to try and hit. So even though you've got a weapon and you're able to fight, you just say, I want to hit the guy. So you're standing in front of him and you want to hit him. Why is it hard to hit him? Why is it a d20, a 1 in 20 chance of hitting him? Because of the concept of he does not want to get hit. So he's not just going to stand there and take it. He's going to bob and weave and move out of the way. He can see you coming. He's going to step back a little bit when you swing your weapon. So it is more difficult to hit the guy. If there's 3 of you, each of you gets an advantage because there's 3, because now he has to try and dodge and weave from each of those opponents. So your combat score has gone up by 2, 1 for each of the allies that are helping you. So your combat score is 3. So 1 is d20, 2 is d12, 3 is d10s. So now you're rolling d10s to attempt to hit. As you add other advantages, you want to obviously try to get to an advantage score of 7, which is d2s, which, if you've got a weapon skill of 5, you roll 6 dice, 6 d2s, you're going to hit the guy. But if you just go, I want to hit him, and you roll, even if you've got a weapon skill of 5, which is 6 dice, because you always get the +1 dice, you're going to roll 6 d20s. So even though that's pretty good in terms of the number of dice you're rolling, the chances of you hitting is still low. So again, you've got to get these advantages in order to succeed. as you build, as you succeed on these dice thresholds, as we talked about before, if you're rolling d6s and your threshold is d4s, you gain experience. If your threshold is d8 and you're rolling d6s, you don't get experience. So initially you start to get a lot of experience very quickly in a weapon, and as it progresses you get less and less and less, and it gets more of a struggle to get to the higher weapon skill proficiencies. So we'll talk about weapon types, proficiencies and effects and things in a later video. But really, the important thing to remember with combat is no one wants to get hit, and you have to gain an advantage over the opponent. So it's all about advantage. That is where the more advantage you get, the easier it is to hit the person. So if you creep up behind them and they don't know that you're there, much easier to hit them. If you maneuver yourself around behind them, but they know that you're there, it's still easier to hit them, but not as much because they know that you're actually there. If you do that with 3 allies around you, you get more of an advantage. If they're on the ground while you're doing it, you get even more of an advantage. If they're bound, gagged, and unconscious, it's pretty much automatic. That is simply how combat works in 7D system. Of course, there is more to it in terms of types of attacks, effect attacks, all these kind of things. We will talk about those in future videos. So if you like this video, click the like button. You can check me out on Facebook and Twitter /7D system. And if you want to be notified of these videos coming out, click the bell next to the subscribe button. And you will be notified, I think, because I don't control Google or the YouTubers. But I will see you in the next video.